Lieutenant James Miller stood at the bridge of the Terran defense vessel, steadfast, his eyes fixed on the endless sea of stars before him. The routine patrol along the edge of human space had been uneventful for the past 3 weeks. He liked it that way, peaceful, quiet, and predictable. But today would be different. "Sir," unknown vessel detected, called out Tom from his scanning station. "It's big, really big." Miller straightened his uniform and watched as the massive ship emerged from what appeared to be a fold in space itself. Its design was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. All smooth curves and shimmering metal that seemed to change color as it moved. "Open communications," Miller ordered, keeping his voice steady despite the flutter of excitement in his chest. First contact. This was what they had trained for. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that made several crew members gasp. The alien commander stood nearly 8 feet tall, with large, dull-like eyes and delicate features that reminded Miller of Earth's deer. But it was the expression of barely contained disgust on the alien's face that caught his attention. "Primitive creatures," the alien spoke, its translator converting its melodic language into English. "I am Admiral Kex of the Galactic Confederation. Your species has been observed and found wanting. Submit to our authority, or face extinction." Miller blinked. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to go. "Admiral," he said carefully, "I am Lieutenant James Miller of the Terran Defense Force. We would prefer peaceful." Silence. Kex's large eyes narrowed. "Your kind. You show your teeth when you speak." "Disgusting predator behavior." The alien shuddered visibly. "We have watched your broadcasts. We have seen how you keep smaller creatures captive in your homes, how you bare your teeth at them in what you call smiles. Your species is a threat to galactic peace." The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. Miller tried again. "Admiral, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. If you'd allow us to explain." "No explanations needed. Your time is over." Kex raised what appeared to be an arm, though it moved more like a delicate branch in the wind. "You have one standard rotation to surrender Earth and all its colonies. Refuse, and we will unleash the beast upon your ships and worlds." Miller felt a headache coming on. "The beast?" he asked, trying to keep the conversation going. Behind him, his crew was quietly activating defense systems and sending emergency signals to Earth Command. "Yes," Kex's voice took on an almost religious tone. "Our greatest creation. A weapon so terrifying that even speaking of it causes fear among my people. A creature engineered to embody everything that makes your kind tremble in the dark." "With all due respect, Admiral," Miller said, "wouldn't it be better to discuss this? We could share cultural information, find common ground." "Common ground." Kex made a sound that might have been a laugh, but it sounded more like wind chimes in a storm. "There can be no common ground between civilized beings and predators. You will learn fear, human. True fear." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. "Well," Tom said from his station, "that could have gone better." Miller rubbed his temples. "Send everything to command. And someone please tell me why an alien species that looks like it evolved from deer decided to pick a fight with humanity." "Maybe they just had a bad day," suggested Lisa from Weapons Control, her fingers already running through combat scenarios. "Sir," Tom called out again, "they're moving something out of their ship. It's some kind of container, about the size of a small shuttle." Miller watched the mysterious container drift between their ships. Whatever the beast was, they were about to find out. He just hoped Earth's first interstellar conflict wouldn't start, because some alien couldn't handle the fact that humans had teeth. "All stations, battle readiness," he ordered. "But no aggressive moves. Let's see what they think is so scary before we do anything hasty." The container began to glow with an eerie blue light. The beast was coming. None of them could have predicted what would emerge, or how it would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy and their place in it. The glowing container split open like a flower blooming in fast motion. Miller and his crew braced themselves, weapons ready but not aimed. The alien ship had gone completely silent, as if its crew was holding their breath in anticipation. "Sir," Tom whispered from his station, "are you seeing this?" Miller was seeing it, but he wasn't sure he believed it. From the mysterious container emerged what looked like, well, a puppy. If puppies had 6 legs, blue fur that sparkled like starlight, and 2 fluffy tails that wagged in perfect synchronization. The creature blinked at the Steadfast with 4 adorably large eyes and let out what could only be described as a happy yip. Lisa was the first to break. Her giggle started small, but quickly grew into full-blown laughter. Like a chain reaction, the rest of the bridge crew followed suit. Even Miller couldn't help the smile spreading across his face. The main screen suddenly flared to life, showing Admiral Kex's confused face. "Why? Why are you making those horrible sounds? Stop it. You are facing the beast, the most terrifying creation in the galaxy." The puppy-like creature chose that moment to do a playful spin in space, its 6 paws paddling at nothing while its tails created a mesmerizing spiral pattern. "Oh my God, it's so cute," Lisa exclaimed, completely forgetting protocol. "Cutie," Kex practically screeched. "It is not cute. It is the embodiment of terror. Look at its razor-sharp teeth, its powerful legs, its hunting eyes." Miller studied the creature more carefully. Yes, it had tiny pointed teeth, but they were currently visible only because the beast was giving what appeared to be a goofy grin. Its legs, while numerous, looked more suited for bouncing than hunting. And those eyes, they were giving the universal puppy-dog look that had been melting human hearts for millennia. "Admiral." Miller tried to keep his voice diplomatic despite the absurdity of the situation. "I think we might have different definitions of terrifying." "Different definitions?" Kex's large eyes blinked rapidly. "Impossible. We spent decades engineering the perfect predator. It can run at high speeds, track targets across vast distances," and he paused as the creature did a backflip and barked happily. "And it's supposed to be striking fear into your hearts." Tom raised his hand like a school kid. "Sir, permission to bring it aboard. I think it wants to play." Indeed, the beast was now doing what looked suspiciously like playbows toward the Steadfast, a behavior familiar to any human who had ever met a friendly dog. "You want to bring it aboard." Kex's voice had risen several octaves. "Have you lost your minds? It will tear you apart." Miller made a decision. "Admiral, I think it's time we had a proper discussion about our species' different perspectives. Tom, prepare the cargo bay for our guest. Lisa, see if we have anything in the kitchen that might work as treats, and someone find a ball. I have a feeling our new friend might enjoy playing fetch." The alien commander watched in horror as the humans efficiently prepared to welcome the beast. "This is not possible," he muttered. "The simulations showed. The predictions indicated." "Admiral," Miller said gently, "I think your simulations might have missed something important about humans. We've evolved alongside predators. In fact, we are predators ourselves, but we're also capable of forming bonds with other species. What you see as a terrifying beast, we see as a potential friend." The 6-legged puppy, apparently tired of waiting, teleported directly onto the bridge in a shower of sparkles. Instead of the expected carnage, it immediately flopped onto its back, all 6 legs in the air, clearly asking for belly rubs. "Well," Miller said, reaching down to scratch the creature's shimmering fur, "I think we're going to need to rethink this whole first contact situation, starting with finding a better name than the beast for this little one." The puppy yipped in agreement, its tails wagging at light speed, while Admiral Kex watched in stunned silence as his ultimate weapon of terror became humanity's newest, fluffiest friend. The next few hours aboard the Steadfast were interesting, to say the least. Miller sat in the ship's conference room, watching as the newly named Fluffy chased a laser pointer dot across the ceiling. Across from him, Admiral Kex remained pressed against the far wall, his large eyes never leaving the happy creature. So, Miller said, trying to break the tense silence, maybe you could explain why you thought this little one would terrify us. Kex's delicate hands trembled as he pointed at Fluffy. Look at how it stalks its prey. The savage hunting instincts. He stopped as Fluffy got dizzy from spinning and fell over with a playful hoof. That's just playing, Miller explained. Haven't you ever seen young animals play? Play. Kex said the word like it was completely foreign. Our young hide in safety until maturity. It is the only way to survive. Tom, who had been quietly taking notes in the corner, looked up. Survive what exactly? The alien commander's face took on a distant look. Long ago, on our homeworld, we were not the only intelligent species. There were others, hunters. They had teeth like your kind, eyes facing forward, and they chased us. His whole body shuddered. My species only survived by learning to hide, to run, to build technology that could protect us. Miller watched as Fluffy gave up on the laser dot and instead curled up for a nap, snoring softly. And that's why you're afraid of us. Because we look like those hunters. You don't just look like them, Kex said. You act like them. You smile, showing teeth. You chase things for fun. You keep predator animals in your homes. He gestured at some files on the table. We study your history. You used to hunt by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. What kind of monsters are you? Lisa, who had been quietly listening while petting Fluffy, spoke up. But that's not all we are. Look at Fluffy here. Yes, the little guy has sharp teeth and hunting instincts, but does he look like a monster to you? We engineered it to be the perfect predator, Kex admitted, using genetic samples from the most feared creatures in our history. But something went wrong. It developed playfulness. He said the last word with obvious disgust. Miller leaned forward. Nothing went wrong. Admiral, you accidentally created something that mirrors humanity's own evolution. Yes, we were hunters. Yes, we have predator traits. But we also learned to care, to protect, to love, just like Fluffy here. As if understanding it was being talked about, Fluffy woke up and teleported directly into Kex's lap. The alien commander froze completely, not even breathing. It's okay, Miller said softly. Just reach out slowly and pet it. Like this. He demonstrated the motion in the air. With trembling fingers, Kex touched Fluffy's soft fur. The creature responded by gently nuzzling his hand and making a purring sound that seemed to vibrate at a quantum level. I don't understand, Kex whispered. It's not attacking. It's not hunting. It's just being friendly, Miller finished. That's something predator species learned over time. Sometimes, having the ability to be dangerous means you also have the choice to be gentle. Fluffy rolled over in Kex's lap, displaying complete trust. The alien commander's hands had stopped shaking as he continued to pet the creature. Perhaps, Kex said slowly, we have made some incorrect assumptions about predator species, and about your kind in particular. Miller smiled, careful not to show his teeth this time. Admiral, I think this might be the beginning of a much more interesting conversation than either of us expected. Around them, the human crew watched as their supposed enemy started to understand that sometimes the most dangerous-looking creatures could also be the kindest. It was a lesson humanity had learned long ago, and now they had the chance to share it with the galaxy. The revelations about Fluffy came faster than anyone expected. It started when Tom found the creature sitting at his computer terminal, 6 paws typing at impossible speeds, while its 4 eyes scanned multiple screens at once. Lieutenant Miller, Tom called out. I think you need to see this. Miller walked over and stared at the screens. Complex equations and codes flowed across them, far too fast for human eyes to follow. Fluffy looked up at him and gave a happy bark, its tails wagging as it continued to work. It's helping optimize our engines, Tom said in disbelief, and doing a better job than our best engineers. Admiral Kex, who had reluctantly agreed to stay aboard the Steadfast for continued discussions, rushed over. Impossible. The beast was designed for combat, not intelligence, Lisa suggested, watching as Fluffy finished its work with a flourish of its paws. Maybe your scientists created something smarter than they realized. The creature teleported to Miller's shoulder and nuzzled his ear. Then, using a series of gentle barks and gestures, it began to communicate. "I think," Miller said slowly, "it's trying to tell us something about its time with the Confederation." Fluffy nodded vigorously and jumped down to the floor. Its fur began to glow, and suddenly a holographic display appeared above it, showing scenes from its creation and training. "We were wrong," Kex whispered, watching the images. "It wasn't failing our combat training. It was choosing not to fight." The hologram showed Fluffy being subjected to various tests, each designed to trigger aggressive responses. But instead of attacking, the creature had consistently tried to play with its targets or solve problems peacefully. "You were hurting it," Lisa said, her voice hard as she watched the scenes unfold. "Not physically, but you were trying to force it to be something it didn't want to be." Fluffy's display shifted, showing the moment it first sensed the human ship. The creature's perspective revealed how it had felt the crew's emotions, their curiosity, their capacity for friendship, their willingness to accept different forms of life. "That's why you came to us," Miller realized. "You weren't breaking free from their control. You were looking for someone who would understand you." The hologram disappeared, and Fluffy bounded around the room, creating small sparkles of light in its wake. It stopped at the ship's main viewport, placing one paw against the glass while looking out at the alien vessel. "I think," Tom said, "it's trying to tell us there are others like it, other creations that might need help." Admiral Kex stepped forward, his movements still cautious but no longer fearful. "The genetic engineering program. It wasn't just one project. We created dozens of variations, all locked away, because they didn't meet our combat requirements." Miller looked at Fluffy, then at his crew, and finally at Kex. "Admiral, I think it's time your people understood something about being a predator species. The strongest among us aren't those who can fight the best. They're the ones who know when not to fight at all." Fluffy barked in agreement, then did something unexpected. It created a small display showing the Steadfast and the alien ship linked by a bridge of light. "A partnership?" Miller asked. The creature nodded enthusiastically. "It wants us to work together," Lisa realized. "To help the others, and maybe help both our species understand each other better." Kex stared at Fluffy for a long moment. "Our greatest weapon," he said slowly, "has become our greatest teacher." The irony would be amusing if it weren't so profound. Miller smiled. "Sometimes the best way to overcome fear is to realize that what you were afraid of was just a friend you hadn't met yet." Fluffy teleported between them, looking from human to alien with obvious joy. Its mission had changed from being a weapon of war to becoming a bridge between species, and it couldn't have been happier about the transformation. The calm of understanding was shattered by a sudden alarm blaring through the Steadfast's corridors. Tom's fingers flew across his console as red warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Sir," he called out, "3 more Confederation ships just dropped out of fold space. They're charging weapons." Admiral Kex's large eyes widened in panic. "No, it's the High Command. They must have detected the beast's changed behavior. They're here too." He couldn't finish the sentence. Fluffy, who had been helping Lisa optimize the shield systems, teleported to the center of the bridge. Its fur bristled with energy, and its usual playful expression was replaced with something more determined. "This is Commander Vale of the High Command." A new voice boomed through the communication system. "Admiral Kex, you are relieved of duty for allowing our weapon to be compromised. Humans, surrender the beast immediately, or face extinction." Miller stood from his captain's chair, his voice steady. "This is Lieutenant Miller. We're currently in peaceful negotiations with Admiral Kex. Perhaps we could." "Silence, Predator," Commander Vale interrupted. You have 10 seconds to surrender before we open fire. Sir, Lisa reported from her station. Their weapons are unlike anything we've seen. Our shields might not. The first blast hit before she could finish. The Steadfast shuddered, but held together. Fluffy's eyes began to glow, and suddenly the shield's strength doubled. Well, Miller said, straightening his uniform, I guess we're doing this the hard way. All hands. Battle stations. What happened next would be talked about in both human and alien space for years to come. The Steadfast, despite being outnumbered 3-1, moved with a grace that shocked the Confederation ships. Every shot they fired seemed to miss by millimeters, while the human vessels' returns struck with pinpoint accuracy. How? Kex whispered, watching the battle unfold. Your ship shouldn't be able to move like that. Tom grinned from his station. Fluffy uploaded some improvements to our systems earlier. I think it knew this might happen. The creature in question was sitting calmly in the middle of the bridge, its 6 paws moving in complex patterns as it helped coordinate the ship's defenses. Each time the enemy ships tried to target a critical system, they found their weapons mysteriously malfunctioning. Commander Vale, Miller tried again. We don't want to destroy your ships. Stand down and let's talk about this. Never. Vale's voice shook with fear and rage. Look at you, fighting with such savage efficiency. You're proving exactly why predator species can't be trusted. Miller glanced at Kex. Admiral, would you like to explain to your commander what you've learned about assumptions? Kex stepped forward. Commander, we were wrong. The humans, they're not what we thought. Yes, they can fight. They're doing it right now. But they're choosing to fight defensively, protecting rather than destroying. Just like the beast chose peace over violence. Lies, predator deceptions. Vale's ship launched another barrage, but this time Fluffy did something new. It teleported the missiles into empty space, letting them explode harmlessly in the void. Sir, Lisa reported with a smile, I think Fluffy's getting tired of this game. Indeed, the creature looked almost annoyed. With a series of quick movements, it disabled the weapons on all 3 enemy ships, then teleported their main power cores into the Steadfast's cargo hold. The bridge crew stared in amazement. Even Kex seemed impressed. Well, Miller said into the sudden silence, Commander Vale, now that we've demonstrated that we could have destroyed you but chose not to, perhaps you'd like to reconsider that conversation. The only response was a strange squeaking sound as Vale and his crew realized they were now completely defenseless against what they had been taught were savage predators. Fluffy gave a satisfied yip and went back to playing with a rubber ball it had found somewhere on the ship, acting as if it hadn't just single-handedly won a space battle. The meeting room of the Steadfast had never been so crowded. Commander Vale and his officers sat on one side, their large eyes darting nervously between the humans and the exits. Admiral Kex sat in the middle, looking more relaxed than before, but still maintaining a cautious distance. The human crew occupied the other side, with Fluffy contentedly sprawled across Miller's lap. Let me see if I understand this correctly, Commander Vale said, his voice still shaking slightly. You're saying that the beast, Fluffy, Lisa corrected automatically, that Fluffy chose not to attack you, and instead helped improve your ship's systems. Miller nodded, scratching behind Fluffy's ears. More than that, it showed us that your entire perspective on predator species might be flawed. Being capable of violence doesn't mean we prefer it. Tom pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's history. Look at these, he said, highlighting images of humans with various animals. Dogs, cats, birds, all descended from predators, all living peacefully with us because we learned to understand each other. But your teeth, one of Vale's officers started, are also used for smiling, Miller finished. Just like Fluffy's enhanced abilities aren't just for combat. Having the capability for something doesn't dictate how you use it. Fluffy chose that moment to demonstrate by teleporting to each alien officer in turn, giving them gentle head bumps and creating small light shows of peaceful scenes from Earth. Children playing with puppies, families having picnics, scientists working together. Fascinating, Vale whispered, finally reaching out to touch Fluffy's fur. All this time, we thought we were creating the ultimate weapon, but instead, you created something that could bridge our differences, Kex finished. Commander, I've spent time with these humans. They're not the monsters we imagined. They're complex. Like us, but different. Miller stood up, carefully choosing his words. Your species evolved from prey animals, always running, always hiding. We evolved as pursuit predators, yes, but that same dedication and persistence also led us to chase knowledge, to pursue understanding, to never give up on finding peaceful solutions. And what about the other creatures like Fluffy? Vale asked. The ones still in containment. Fluffy's ears perked up at this, and it created a hologram showing other genetic experiments, each one unique, each one potentially as intelligent and peaceful as itself. I have a proposal, Miller said. Let us help you evaluate them. Not as weapons, but as individuals. Maybe they're all like Fluffy, smart, peaceful, and waiting for a chance to show their true nature. Vale looked at Kex, who nodded encouragingly. The human has proven himself trustworthy, Kex said, and wise, in ways we didn't expect. There's an old human saying, Lisa added, never judge a book by its cover, or in this case, never judge a species by their teeth. Fluffy teleported to the center of the table and did something it had never done before. It spoke, not in barks or yips, but in a gentle voice that somehow combined both human and alien languages. Friends, it said simply, creating a glowing image of all of them together, humans, aliens, and itself, united in understanding. The aliens gasped. Commander Vale's hands trembled as he stood. All this time, you could. I chose when to speak, Fluffy said, just as I chose not to fight, just as humans choose to use their predator nature for protection rather than aggression. Choice is what makes us who we are, not our capabilities. Miller smiled at the stunned faces of the alien officers. So, shall we begin working together? There's clearly a lot more we can learn from each other. Vale looked at his officers, then at Fluffy, and finally at the humans. Yes, he said quietly. I believe it's time we learned how wrong our assumptions were about everything. The room fell into a comfortable silence as both species realized they were witnessing the beginning of something remarkable, a true understanding between predator and prey, brought together by a creature that refused to be what others expected it to be. 3 months after the standoff at the edge of human space, the Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation buzzed with unprecedented activity. Species from across the galaxy gathered to witness something many had thought impossible, the formal acceptance of humanity into the Confederation, with a rather unusual twist. Lieutenant Miller, now wearing the new rank insignia of ambassador, stood at the podium with Fluffy floating gracefully beside him. The creature's blue fur sparkled even more than usual, and all 6 of its paws were groomed to perfection for the occasion. When we first met the Confederation, Miller began, it was because they thought we were monsters, dangerous predators who needed to be controlled or eliminated. He paused, looking at the diverse crowd. And they were half right. A murmur ran through the audience, particularly among the prey species. We are predators, Miller continued. We have sharp teeth, forward-facing eyes, and the instincts of hunters. But that's not all we are. Just like Fluffy here was created to be a weapon but chose to be a friend, humanity has chosen to use its predator nature to protect rather than destroy. Fluffy demonstrated this point by creating a spectacular light show above the gathering. It showed scenes from the past 3 months. Humans helping to rehabilitate the other genetic experiments. Prey species learning that not all predators were enemies. Predator species discovering the value of restraint. Admiral Kex, Now the head of the new Interspecies Cooperation Division stepped forward. Thanks to Ambassador Miller and Fluffy, we've discovered that 28 of our weapons are actually highly intelligent beings. Each one has chosen, like Fluffy, to use their abilities for peace. And that, Miller said, is why we're here today. Not just to join the Confederation, but to propose a new role within it. Fluffy spoke, its voice carrying clearly through the hall. Humanity will serve as mediators between predator and prey species. They understand both the instinct to hunt and the choice to protect. They are the bridge we needed, but never knew we were missing. Commander Vale, who had become one of their strongest supporters, stood from his seat. I moved to accept this proposal 3 months ago. I would have rather fled my ship than stand near a human. Now, I understand that my fear was based on ignorance. The humans have shown us a better way. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. As the agreement was formally recorded, Fluffy did something spectacular. It teleported to the center of the hall and created a massive holographic display of the galaxy, highlighting all the worlds of the Confederation. Look, it said, at how much stronger we are together, predator and prey, working as one. Miller watched as representatives from various species began to mingle, many for the first time. A small group of previously isolated predator species was chatting with some prey species about cultural exchange programs. Several of the rehabilitated weapons were demonstrating their abilities, not to frighten, but to help and protect. Tom, who had been promoted to Chief of Interspecies Technology Exchange, leaned over to Miller. You know, when we started that patrol 3 months ago, I never thought we'd end up here. Neither did I, Miller admitted. But sometimes the best adventures are the ones you never see coming. Fluffy teleported onto Miller's shoulder, its favorite perch. Family, it said simply, looking out at the gathering. That's right, buddy, Miller agreed. One big, strange, intergalactic family. As the celebration continued, news spread across the galaxy. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not through conquest or submission, but by showing that true strength lies in choosing how to use your power. And it had all started because an engineered beast had looked at the supposedly terrifying predators called humans and thought, "What a cute species. I think I'll keep them." Fluffy's tails wagged in satisfaction. Its mission had evolved far beyond its original programming, and that was exactly how it liked it. After all, as humans had taught it, life was about the choices you make, not the abilities you have, and it had chosen very well indeed.